Guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Merry meet and merry part, bright the cheeks and warm the heart. For tread the circle thrice about, to keep unwelcome spirits out. Bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. These 8 words the read fulfill, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. Now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
And merry meet and welcome, everybody. Several weeks ago, Von Braschler was on our show to talk about his latest project, which is the Ancient Wisdom Scrolls. It's an innovative series of scrolls, 8 in total, that allow modern readers get to learn like the ancients. The first 2 scrolls are Past Lives and Lucid Dreaming, and tonight we're going to be talking about past lives. Now, Vaughn is a lifetime member of the International Theosophical Society, is the author of many books, and you guys that are listening to the show regularly have listened to him. The books are on consciousness development, and he's also a student of yoga. He's led workshops throughout the U.S. and the U.K. and appeared on television and many radio shows, including this week, George Noory. Now, you know that questions and comments are welcome from the ParaX chat room. And if you're listening live, you can join us at paraxradionetwork.com. And we're going to jump in because there's way too much to talk about. Hi, Vaughn. Welcome back.
Merry meet, sister. How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually good. This scroll thing is still kind of mind-blowing because it's something so new and so different.
I know. Well, we work for the same publisher, and I was blown away when he said, "Let's do scrolls."
No.
I said scrolls, but I'm thinking like this was pretty clever. It's going over well.
Oh, good. It just, they came out in February. Well, did both of them come out? The Lucid
They were delayed. They actually technically came out yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Timing is perfect.
Yeah. There were delays. There were delays because of shipping, and we had a problem with the printer. That actually was kind of a funny story. It involved past lives, and it involved censorship.
Oh. Really?
Yeah. The first one was Past Lives, and I thought it was going to be printed in India because Schiffer does a lot of books in India, at least Red Feather, and golly sakes, turns out the only place they could find a printer that could print a continuous long sheet of parchment with gold and silver type was in China. So they had a printer in China that could do this long, because everybody else has a press size and a press sheet, right? Mm-hmm. And I kept telling them you have to have a series of 21-inch sheets on a flatbed press, run them and roll them in a tube. And I said, but turn it over to your art department. And so we ended up in China. So we get a call, or I get a call from some of the editors over there, which you know too, Marla. And they said, golly sakes, Vaughn, we're having a problem with the printer. And I said, why? And they said, well, the printer's in China. And I said, not India? They said, no, we couldn't find anybody except in China. So here's the thing. You named the Dalai Lama when you're talking about past lives. I said, I never named the Dalai Lama. I can't even remember his name. I just referred to him as the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet. Yeah. And they said, well, we'll try to find out what's got them upset. And they said, oh, you describe how the Dalai Lama is named.
Oh.
which actually it describes. I might have mentioned this when I was on last time, but when the Dalai Lama dies, the high lamas of Tibet go almost door to door to any children they think might be a candidate for the reincarnation of the previous Dalai Lama, and they quiz these young people to find out if they know intimate secrets about the previous Dalai Lama's life that only the Dalai Lama himself would know. And then when they find someone that just knows things that they shouldn't know, as Ian Stevens says, children who remember previous lives, then they say, we found him. They found him. And I said, this is how they've done it for 14 consecutive Dalai Lamas, which is considered one of the proofs that reincarnation actually works, And anyway, they were very upset that I described it because they have a law in China. Since they don't get along with the people of Tibet, the Dalai Lama, in fact, is in exile because he's also considered a sort of political figure as well as a religious, spiritual figure in Tibet. So they have a law that nobody in the Chinese can discuss. Can name the Dalai Lama, can name the Dalai Lama, and I'd done that in only 3 paragraphs in telling as briefly as I have here how the process of selecting the new Dalai Lama is done through past life memory. And they said that's no good. And they said, if you do this, we can't print the book. And they said, well, just go ahead and do it. I said, well, then they'll shut us down, and then you won't have a printer. I said, well, we'll go somewhere else. And they said, good luck. Who are you going to find that can do a continuous long sheet of parchment? So they kind of had us. So I said, take out the 3 paragraphs on the condition that every time I speak about this book, Past Lives, I get to tell the story of how the Dalai Lama is selected.
Yay!
Yay! So I win. They win. Everyone wins, right?
That's good. Well, when we're talking about the scrolls themselves, the one thing that really interested me, I haven't gotten it yet. I know Schiffer's going to get me one. I haven't gotten it yet. But when I was reading that the scrolls themselves, one scroll can flow into a second receiving scroll. Yeah. Which is really interesting. But it reads left to right, as people normally do, not down as some scrolls do. And then the scroll in the left is the originating scroll, and then the scroll to the right is where you push the new pages. So you just slide the pages forward to the right, basically into the receiving scroll. And there's a little teeny marker where you can hold the place if you stop anywhere. I was just going to say that, a built-in page marker on a scroll. I mean, how clever is that? Well, gosh, and I was talking to Chris McClure over at Red Feather, and I said, I don't know how we're going to do it. And I gave him ideas how to order 1-inch plastic tubes with a stopper. And how to put in 5 sheets printed front and back on 21-inch sheets, which I said is all the press capacity you can find. And I said, but Chris, turn this over to your art department and see what they can find out. And they just took it and ran. I'm pleased. Yeah, I was really surprised. So anyway, I'm waiting to get mine. I'm, bated breath and all that. Well, I'm really pleased because, there have been many examples of ancient documents that were buried in the earth. And they tended to be like scrolls or something that was put into a tube or earthen pot, let's say. We had the Dead Sea Scrolls. You now have the Nag Hammadi Library found in the 1950s, all buried and found, centuries later. You have the Babylonian tablets, buried in the earth. And I'm thinking so these scrolls actually fit in a plastic tube. And what lasts longer than plastic? Not much. So I'm going to, after I read mine and, I'm going to bury it in the backyard. Because, dark ages come and then they go, and then a lot of things are lost. Mm-hmm.
I don't want that to happen to us. And we don't have much information, do we, about Pythagoras? Probably the greatest man who ever lived.
That's true. You're right. Well, these scrolls will live on somewhere and somehow. They will definitely
Yeah.
live on.
Well, they're not, it's not like they have like special knowledge, but it's
No.
kind of a summary of what different civilizations and different philosophical and spiritual traditions have thought about past lives in various ways. And it isn't always just like reincarnation or not reincarnation. Are you going to die and go to heaven, or are you going to come back again as a man or a woman? There are many, many variations of the idea of the progression or evolution of souls.
And that's what I want to get into a little bit because, discussing past lives is like peeling an onion, right? One layer after another, and you just keep going. And so, like I said, I'm not sure how many layers we can get through tonight, but I'm going to give it hell trying. And I want to start with the journey of souls. And as you said, to appreciate our past lives and recurring incarnations, we need to understand the long journey of our soul as never-ending. And I believe that's true, but give us a quick synopsis on souls, because you made a really good point in the scrolls. What is a soul, and how are they created?
Ooh, that's what George asked me last night.
Oh, really?
And I give the answer that probably nobody likes. To me, I believe in the Hindu concept of the Shakti Shiva, which is light and consciousness coming together and inhabiting us and giving us what we commonly call an inner spirit. And that inner spirit then is our light, and it also is our intelligent consciousness, our intelligent awareness. And that to me, so I have a hard time separating in my own feeble mind soul from spirit, because I honestly think, this is just me speaking, not the book, that there's just one soul. There's only one, and we're part of it. We're little flames. We're little sparks of one eternal flame.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I think. Now, some people believe in animal group souls. Some people believe in group souls, so cluster souls. Now, you mentioned A Journey of Souls. Michael Newton, the psychologist, believed that based on regressing people into past lives, that people, in fact, have a past life recall, and then they come back, and they all come back as a cluster group of about a dozen people. And yeah, that's your soul group, your cluster group. And you tend to kind of bounce around with them, knowing them or not knowing them, but highly attracted to them, and usually occupying the same space and lifestyle. And you might not recognize them as part of your cluster group, but they're with you always, and there'll be a group leader. And then you evolve, that your little speck of light, according to what Michael Newton was told by his people on, deep hypnosis. They would remember being basically like little specks of yellow light, and then they would evolve into a different color as they would get, more experience, to have greater awareness. So I think that, and then I think of what Carl Jung, a great mystic psychologist, had to say about the collective unconscious, that in fact we all share consciousness of others who have come and gone. In fact, people who are locked up in the Bellevue, as the great white witch Sybil Leek said, you're locked inside the Bellevue, but golly sakes, maybe what they're experiencing is sensible, because they all have a memory of being Marie Antoinette or Napoleon or maybe Charlie Chaplin. And in fact, we all were Charlie Chaplin in a sense, because we share the consciousness of these people. So we share the consciousness of them, then we share maybe the same soul.
All right, because something else came up too in my head, when I start thinking, look out. Many people believe that we have many lifetimes because of karma, and we try to fix the wrongs that we do. And at some point, we've climbed up the ladder, and there's no reason to come back down because we've done what we were supposed to do. But if that's the case, if we're not in need of another life, what happens to our soul then?
Well, your soul, I think, never ever dies. It is eternal because it is energy. Our spirit is energy, our soul is energy, our consciousness is energy, and the inner self, our true self, the self that's hidden inside of us, our spirit, our soul, our consciousness is in fact eternal. It's an eternal spark. And that will never ever end. It will just go on and on. It will evolve. It'll change color with awareness, but you might end up somewhere else. We're not always going to live here on this planet, are we? How many of us started here on this planet? I mean, you think about how many people have reincarnated or supposedly reincarnated. Let's have an open mind, and then how the Earth population keeps swelling and swelling. Well, there are new souls, right? So where did they come from? Where did they come? All these new souls. Now, there's different theories like Tars, and in the Samadhi mystics of the East, they talk about the emanations of the souls, the emanation of the soul coming forward as great waves rolling forward as consciousness comes forward and descends to the earth, and then returns to the source, and then rolls back again. The great emanation of the souls, or it's sometimes called devolution / evolution. But then I think also we move on to other places. We're not all going to be in the third grade forever. Some of us are there a long, long time. But eventually some of us get out and we go to another school, a middle school, a high school, and so forth. And we find a new place, or we move to another city, or we get another job. We have a new life. And how many lives do we have even in this physical life? Well, I think that people are going to outgrow living here, or they'll change, and they'll take a different approach to what they're doing. They won't just come back and always just kind of live the same kind of humdrum life over and over and over again. Maybe they'll be like a leader or an inspiration to others or a guide. That's a wonderful thing to shoot for, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Or maybe they'll go somewhere else to live. Maybe the people that come here and the funny round little things that fly in the sky, maybe that's explains who they are. Maybe they've been here and they're coming back, like a reunion. I don't know. It's a thought,
Yeah. They were just like, okay, enough of there. I'm coming back somewhere else. Yeah, I can see that.
And then there's the idea of transmigration of souls.
See, now I'm not so sure about that. I mean, everything is possible, but I was always taught that, when you die, you can't come back as a cat, or, you just can't do that. And it kind of makes sense and it kind of doesn't make sense.
Well, see, I mean, I agree with you. It makes sense and it doesn't make sense. A tree's always going to be a tree, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure that when your cat dies, it might not come back to you as a dog. Mm-hmm. Because I've had cats that, under interrogation told me that they were once my dog. And I believe them,
Yeah.
And because they have memories of that previous life. Mm-hmm. But I think maybe this will explain how that happens, is that most of us become very comfortable living as we are as people, mm-hmm. So we don't want to come back as a dolphin. We want to come back as a person. Mm-hmm. And if you're a dolphin, you're comfortable with being a dolphin, so you want to come back again as a dolphin.
Mm-hmm. So there might be choices instead of, black and white. There's that gray area.
I think that sums it up. Yeah. Forget about the lords of karma. Look in the mirror. You're looking at the Lord of Karma. It's all about you. Choices.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Now, let's talk a little bit about past life memories, because they come in a variety of ways. And many people either disregard the memories, they don't pick up on them.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways that memories do come through?
Well, a lot of people will have something like past life memories, and these will be like deja vu moments. You say, "Oh my gosh, I'm having a memory of something, but I've never been here. I've never met you. This is a totally different situation." And you try to figure it out, and you say, "There's just nothing in my physical life that would explain why I'm comfortable, and I know who you are and what you're going to say." There are flashbacks people have. They'll have a flashback, maybe a moment of insight when they're like lucid dreaming or daydreaming, and suddenly, boom, you're remembering a past life, a scene. You say, "Oh my gosh, I was that person." Or, some people actually spend a lot of time in past life recall, going into deep meditation and trying to recall their past lives. We have dreams of the past and dreams of the future. So when you dream of a life in the past, and it's so vivid, I'm talking about lucid dreams here.
Right, yeah.
Or dreams of the future, and there you are. And it's so vivid and so real. You just know that this is, you're looking at yourself through a little telescope. And then you look at how the ancients have always believed in these sort of dreams to discover who am I and what is my future and what is my past. It goes all the way back to the Babylonians, the ancient city of Sumer. It goes back to the Mesopotamians. It goes back to the Assyrians. The Egyptians had dream temples, yes, and the Greeks, actually did dream work. And we have the Samadhi mystics. We have dream walkers in the shamanic tradition, dream walkers, and spirit walkers. We have Tibetan Buddhist dream yoga, which is a big part of the yoga in the Buddhist Tibetan tradition. So then you have the near-death experiences. And in near-death experiences, people have very common experiences where they'll be walking down a light, right? And at the end of this tunnel of light, they'll see people that they know. They know them. Or they'll see somebody they really wanted to see, And Dr. Raymond Moody, author of Life After Life, started out just studying near-death experiences without any real belief or confidence in reincarnation. He says, "Where's the proof?" Right? Well, after he'd done this and worked with many, many people in near-death experiences, Raymond Moody concluded that yes, reincarnation is a fact. It happens, and people are actually, proving this in near-death experiences. Now, not only Ray Moody, but others. In the United Kingdom, there was a nurse, Dr. Penny Sartori, in the UK, and she for 20 years she was a nurse in intensive care, and she observed many, many people there who went through near-death experiences. And what she determined, and she wrote about this, her book is Wisdom of the Near-Death Experience. Wisdom of the near-death experience, because when they would go through the experience of the near-death, they would see lives ahead of them, a progression that their life is going to continue. So she concluded that reincarnation exists. Now, not only did she conclude, but the people that she worked with had this feeling like, yes, there is life out there after death. And the interesting thing about Penny Sartori's work in intensive care was that she noticed that the people, and she kept records of this, it really mattered not whether the people had a religious orientation of any sort, any spiritual tradition about future life and death or not. It didn't matter whether the people were spiritual or religious or not. They all had these same experiences.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the medical community is way more open about things like that because they see death all the time. They hear the ND, near-death experience things from people, and they're all pretty much the same. I mean, there's a little bit of difference, of course.
Yeah.
But I think talk to a nurse who works in intensive care or something like that. I just think people are more open to it now, and books by like Moody and whatever. When somebody has a near-death experience and they talk about it to their family, the family's going to believe them for the most part.
Yeah.
And then somebody else talks, and so somebody in the family talks to one of their friends, and they talk about it. And then somebody, it's a chain of command. And more people are open to it because they're getting from the source of something that they believe in.
Yes.
This person wasn't crazy. This person, was really, she was always good. She was a religious woman or not, but it wasn't like somebody making up a story.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think near-death experiences are really, really popular these days, and people are believing in them.
Well, not the entire medical community. There are still those that are material reductionists, and they want to reduce everything to that material, platform. And they say, well, they say that you're having some kind of a memory, or you're experiencing something, or it's a brain aberration. But golly sakes, a lot of these people that have had near-death experiences are medically dead.
Mm-hmm.
That means that their heart isn't beating. Moreover, it means that they have no brain activity.
Yeah.
So where is it? Where is it coming from? I mean, it's somewhere in the middle of all this. I'm hoping we could talk a little bit about lucid dreaming, because I think lucid dreaming is really a way to explore your greater existence, the existence outside of your physical body. Your past, your future. You're all of these people, every one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, lucid dreaming is like, we've talked about this. You and I've talked about this.
Yeah.
That you have a dream, but when you wake up that wasn't your, ordinary dream. And you don't know what the heck it was, because it was so real, and you were talking to somebody like they were right with you, and of course they were, or you were up there with them.
Yeah.
I think everybody does have lucid dreaming, because those to me are the dreams that make sense.
These are the dreams of the spirit. They're the inner self that's having this higher consciousness, this greater awareness that steps outside of you. These are not manufactured by your physical brain. If you have that sort of a dream manufactured by your physical brain, you're like reliving past experiences or worrying about the future. And in those dreams, it is almost like a Freud dream scenario where you don't have clear picture of everybody. Everybody is a representation of you, and you're just bouncing off of different people, having these kind of like ping pong, tormented, really, toss and turn, sleepless night dreams of wrestling with questions that you cannot resolve in your mind. Mm-hmm. But a lucid dream, by contrast, is one that comes from your inner consciousness, your spirit, when it actually steps outside the body and your consciousness leaves the body and explores and goes somewhere. So very often a lucid dream will be out there. I mean, it'll be in an exotic location. It will be outside your body, clearly outside your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating, and I think when one of these days we're going to have you back to talk about that too, because it's really an important thing. All right, we're just about ready to take a break, so I've got a question to come up, but I think we'll wait till after the break.
Okay.
For you guys, if you think that you've heard these commercials somewhere before, You're not having deja vu moments. It's just the same ones that we play every week. So stay put, and we'll be right back.
Cauldron will be right back, so don't go away.
If you end up with webbed feet,
Remember, you've been warned.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. Covenant House is the national leader providing safe housing for youth, 50 years strong. Every youth who walks into Covenant House gets clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. So, look closer at Covenant House and help us fight youth homelessness. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
Are you haunted by shadow people in the middle of the night?
Do you secretly love all things creepy and spooky, enjoying ghost stories and horror fiction from the best storytellers?
Do you have a true ghost experience you want to share, but no one will believe you?
If yes, listen to the professionals on What Are You Afraid of? Horror Paranormal Show Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Para X Radio and at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com.
What are you afraid of on Para X?
Our creepy and demented hosts are on call to provide you with all your spooky needs with true ghost stories, interviews, indie music, and new horror fiction. We are ready to scare you.
Para X.
Missed an episode of Stirring the Cauldron? Then be sure to check out marlabrooks.com and check out the archive. And while you're there, check out Marla's weekly Witches Oracle card reading. Explore the site to find many great resources, such as information on tarot, oracle readings, metaphysical consultations, and links to all of Marla's books. That's marlabrooks.com. Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
And my guest tonight is Von Braschler, and we're talking about his new Ancient Wisdom Scrolls, and we're focusing tonight on past lives. And we had a question in the chat room before we had to take a break, so it is, what about cellular memory or ancestral memory? Is it possible that we're reliving or carrying on a commitment or karma from our ancestors?
I think in this life we do have cell memory. It's a very physical thing, you know, and I say this as a person who's certified in myofascial release, that every cell in your body has a memory of every other cell in the body. And this is just as myofascial release, that there's a book, you know, on this, The Secret Life of Cells. It's very interesting. So the theory is that if there's trauma in any part of your body, people typically say, well, you have baggage, you know, you can't get rid of it. But it's not just psychological baggage. There's cellular memory. And this is why people have lingering, crippling internal problems, is because the body remembers trauma. But the idea of carrying it forward on a cellular level, I can't quite wrap my head around that, because that's a very material, physical way to look at things. And I think that basically we're light and intelligent energy inside of us, and that I look at the physical body as basically like the shell of a hermit crab. Mm-hmm. We're just kind of walking around until we get a better body. I'm still looking for a better body.
Don't we all? I mean,
yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a hermit crab one time. I had a saltwater aquarium, and this little guy went all around the bottom, and he would stick things on him. I mean, this was a creative little crab. He was getting little bits of coral. He was getting little things food particles. I mean, you know, I envy them. They can be very open, and nobody's going to complain that they're a little crazy.
You know, we look at other animals, other life forms, and we think, well, they're not very bright. Well, they just have a different way of looking at things. They have consciousness, you know, and they have a spirit, and they have a soul, every one of them.
Some people say animals don't have souls, but I think those are the soulless humans, actually.
Yeah, they're the people who are empty inside. They can't see.
Yeah.
They live in a tiny, tiny box.
There you go. And, we can never make some people believe in past lives, or anything else for that matter. And it's futile to try because they just don't have 100% proof. And nothing is, 100% usually. But the mystery, go ahead.
I was going to say, some of this, of course, is religiously induced.
Yes.
The belief that, you're going to die and you're going to go to heaven, or you're going to go to paradise, or you're going to explore nirvana, and it's like, oh, come on, really, So they see that you live this life and then it all goes black, and then you're somewhere else. You're somewhere else. But even that, suggests that life continues on. There's still the concept of progression of life.
Yeah, and I was just going to say something about the nothingness thing because, the mystery of not remembering and or not recognizing thing that comes through to us in a cryptic sort of way makes it even worse. And I can't believe that we live and die, and when we do, there is nothingness. I mean, it doesn't make sense that we have an expiration date and then get thrown out.
Yeah, well, a very clever fellow named Plato wrote a book called Theory of Recollection, in which he talks about a priori knowledge, how people would be born with a memory of a language that they are not supposed to have, or suddenly, this wasn't in his time, but somebody walks up and plays the piano without ever having received a lesson or even a clue as to how to play the piano. I mean, I've experienced this myself. I was once in Puerto Rico, and a woman from Venezuela walked up to me as I'm going into my room, at the beach house, and she speaks to me in Spanish, and I answered her in Spanish. And I don't speak Spanish. I went into the room, and my friend who does speak Spanish said, I didn't know you were fluent in Spanish. And I said, I don't speak Spanish. And it happened one other time, somebody from Cuba knocked on my door, and I had a conversation with him in Spanish. And he opened the door, and he said, oh, I didn't know you spoke Spanish. Well, I'm thinking that somewhere in a past life, I did speak Spanish.
And so that cellular memory is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we sometimes figure out things that we have no right of knowing how we did it, or something like that. I just, again, we're peeling the onion back.
But see, then people will say, well, how come these are like odd cases? That doesn't happen to me or anybody I know. Well, think about it. Would you really want to be born with all these memories? I mean, of the lives that I do remember, some of them had really difficult moments, and I don't think you want to be born with all this baggage. You want to forget. One thing they taught us when I played tennis was try to forget the last game and all the stupid things that happened. Just try to forget it and move on. And it's like you need to forget your past life. This would be a great thing.
Well, yeah, that's good. But the only thing is that people can't believe about an afterlife or past life because we can't prove anything. We don't know, and because we don't remember. So it's kind of a catch-22 here.
Yeah. But, there are a lot of people that try to prepare themselves for a future life. You look at the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the whole concept of that is to prepare yourself going through the intermediate state between two physical lives, to prepare yourself through experiencing different levels of consciousness, so that when you do die, you'll be ready. You'll be consciously ready, aware, and they did this too with the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It was a little different. But the Egyptian Book of the Dead was the book of coming forth by day, and it considered the afterlife as a continuation of their life on Earth, and they would actually prepare for it. Now, you think that's crazy? We do this today, and we do it in hospital and therapy sessions. and in hospice where people are dying. We have conscious dying, where in order to consciously die, with a sense of consciousness and conscious awareness, that when you go forward, you're aware of that you're going forward, and you're not confused by the sudden change. You become conscious. You learn to consciously live. And most people, honestly, they don't really have a good concept of death because they don't have a good concept of life. I mean, most people are just kind of like sleepwalking through life. They're not really awake, not really awake. They're not really alert. They're not aware, not consciously aware. So how could they be conscious at this moment of death? But it's something to look for. I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just, thinking that it's just like we know things, we don't know things, we think we know things, we hope we know things, and it's just that one little dangling carrot that we don't know. And it would be nice if we kind of got more of a hint as to, people wouldn't be so afraid.
Now, you think this sounds kind of Eastern, this idea of preparing for death like this. But, we've seen it in Christianity. We've seen it in Buddhism with the bodhisattvas, where they would sing, to the sun and the moon, songs of joy and hope to the universe. Saint Francis died singing with his love for the universe, unceasing devotion to Sister Moon and Brother Sun. I think that there's something to be said for consciously living and consciously dying.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the movie the book, Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol? It's like reviewing your life, a life review, There was a good movie like that too, Defending Your Life. You have to think about, it's like the consequences, and when you go forward, you're going to. Well, let's not say be accountable, but you have to go forward with conscious awareness, Yeah,
I'm still sitting here thinking of transmutation, that somebody is going to have, and nobody's, to my knowledge, which isn't very much, but somebody is going to sit there one day and have a past life regression and come back and say, oh my God, I was a horse or a pig or something, and people are going to think they're absolutely off their rocker.
Well, I think it's entirely possible. I think it's
I know.
I mean, it took me a long time to actually remember in detail when I was a woman, because I always thought I never lived as a woman. This is not true. I mean, I have really sad memories of walking across Europe in World War I with 2 children, trying to avoid disaster with them. Sometimes forgetfulness is a good thing.
Well, yeah, it can be. Now, how are you personally finding out about your past lives?
Oh, well, I do believe in lucid dreaming. So I mean, I explore it that way. I try to explore my life in lucid dreams. I try to program a lucid dream where I'll actually go and explore life, and you can also do this through meditation. I mean, you look at what in the shamanic culture they'll have, not only vision quests, but they'll have, where they'll go and they'll explore the past and the future, in a trance, and I think you really can see your past lives. I mean, I can remember the world when it was a very, very different place, so obviously I was here at an early time, I'm just hoping I'll be here at a later time, but the way things are going, we might all have to go somewhere else. I don't know.
We'll go in group. We have a soul group. We'll join and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just so interesting. There's another question from the chat room. She said, when talking about cellular memory, she says, or the unconscious connection to all. Yeah. Ever have that moment of simply saying, I don't know the answer, and the answer pops up into your head?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this is a wonderful thing when you become consciously aware that you can tap into universal consciousness, because all of the answers are out there. You know, I mean, a lot of them are already inside you. You just have to learn to listen and tap it. But a lot of the answers we seek are out there. You know, I believe in the oneness of all theory. We're all
I was going to ask you about that. So,
all connected.
Yeah. So, is there more just than that one sentence, or how do you explain it?
Well, the oneness of all theory is not just from theosophy, but we kind of associate the oneness of all with Annie Besant, who wrote Esoteric Christianity and many other books, which were not about Christianity. And she said that all of life, from the smallest atom to the greatest cosmos, is connected as one whole being. And that's what I believe.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about, you sometimes we're watching, using the word that's going to age me, travelogues, and we go to England, we see Paris, we see God knows where, and we know that that's like home in a sense.
Say, oh my gosh, I've been there. It's like, there's no way I've ever been to that part of England.
Right.
But, and I've certainly never been there when it looked like this, and people dressed like that and rode around in horse carts. But you know exactly what it was, Yeah, I mean, I had this experience, one of my most profound memories of a past life actually was in Wales, and I was a farmer and I was a poet. And doggone it, when I went to the UK, I was living with this family, and I was talking about my memories of Wales. And they said, do you know how close you are to Wales right now? He says, get in our car. And we drove there, and we stopped in a mission, and they let me out, and they said, oh my gosh, I can see the people who lived here. It was really profound.
Yeah. It's just kind of amazing, and you sometimes you get really emotionally involved with it. I mean, strangely enough, I think that when I see things in the UK, they touch my heart. It's not just that I'm looking for something and it's really interesting. It's part of me, I think.
Yeah.
In a sense. And so I think a lot of people have that, but you don't really think about it. And the same thing about a frame of time in history. Like I think back to the Renaissance and then the Wild West. I mean, there's a couple of different things that, just attract. And I think that probably also is trying to figure out a past life.
Yeah. And I think people will live their life differently when they start to think of life as a never-ending journey. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. I always think of the arc of the hero's journey, in classical literature and psychology, that you accept the call to go on this great journey of discovery, and along the way you have insights of self, and you grow to a larger person, a more full person, and then you eventually reach home. Well, Ithaca is a different place for every one of us. And going to Oz and returning back to Kansas and Annie M is a different experience for every one of us. But it's just that profound, And I think we have to be ready for the realization that you're going to go through this great journey in this life, and at the end, it just starts over again. It just restarts. It's an auto restart. It's never going to end, because how can it end? I mean, inside of each one of us is light and consciousness and spirit, which are non-physical things. It's energy, and energy can never be destroyed. In fact, now we know, our scientists have told us, that everything is energy. We're simply now looking at physical life and saying, well, this is no longer energy. This is matter, or physical matter. Well, it's only temporarily that way. Everything you see around you is temporary.
Yeah, and we try to hold on to it, but, that's not a good idea either. You just have to kind of roll with the punches. Yeah. So basically, I mean, the soul's journey and its ascent, it's not complicated, but it is at the same time, I mean, it's hard to sit down and read about it, and you did do a really good job on that scroll talking about the ascent and journey. It's just something that you have to open-mindedly embrace.
Well, next time you watch a baseball game, we're in baseball season now, right?
I know.
Except that, I'm not quite sure I can accept that because my Mariners can't hit the ball or catch the ball. But we're on baseball season. Yeah, they're terrible. Okay, but however, there's more season left. The point of a baseball, if you look at how it was set up, and most people don't think about this, but it was set up by Abner Doubleday, mm-hmm. and it has all these clues of karma and reincarnation. If you think about it, you get up and you get 3 swings. You get extra chances to hit the ball, mm-hmm. and if you don't, you sit down and you think about it, and then later on you can get up and try again in another inning, right? Mm-hmm. And in between innings, you go out and you stand in the field and you watch other people and you observe them, and then you get to come up again and try. And you get like 9 innings, like 9 lives of a cat, right? Mm-hmm. And then and after the game's over, it's okay. We'll get them next time. Mm-hmm. See, and I think this was all on purpose because baseball started out as stickball. Mm-hmm. It wasn't teams. It was just one person trying to hit the ball with a stick, and everybody out there trying to catch it. And then we got this idea of teams and working together. But everybody has their turn at bat. Everybody has an opportunity. And there's a consequence to striking out. You have to sit down, but you can try again. And I think this is what probably life is like. You're going to get many, many opportunities, and then you're going to sit down, and then you're going to come back and try again.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they do, and that's a good analogy. And I'm sorry about your Mariners. My Dodgers are doing pretty well. But that's...
Yeah, well... That's because they're called the Dodgers. See, if we changed their name to the Dodgers, they'd be better. It's a cursed name.
Well, do you know what? Well, we'll talk about that later. We don't need to talk about baseball right now.
No.
But let's talk about the more scrolls. Lucid Dreaming is out right now too. It came out with.
It is. It is out, and I'm glad they came out together. First of all, I didn't want to issue 2 at the same time, but these 2 are really kind of interconnected because I think our dreams are a way to explore our past lives. Mm-hmm. Dream work has been very important in people studying their past and their future throughout history, mm-hmm. and so it is with us with lucid dreaming and serious dream work. You can explore your past lives and even look into your future lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just a ballpark thing, but when are the next bunch? Are they going to come out 2 at a time? Are they going to come out 1 at a time?
Well, Marla, Schiffer as well as I do about it. Dunno. They give me dates and then they keep changing. But there's reason for that. Like there are delays in shipping now.
Sure.
So that's part of it, but I can't. I do know that I've written all the other 6, and mm-hmm. the next 2 that come out probably next year will be Magical Systems. Mm. That was a fun one.
Like that.
And then Energy Healing.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they come out the same day or not, don't know. I mean, these 2, Lucid Dreams and Past Lives, were originally not coming out the same day, but they ended up coming out the same day. That's because they were printed at the same time at the same printer, and they had the same printing delays, and they both got delayed, and then they both got. So anyway, the last 4 that I've more recently written are Elementals and Nature Spirits.
Oh, good.
Amulets, Talismans, and Charms.
Oh.
Totems, Animal Spirits, and Guides.
Mm.
The last one I wrote was Magical Altars.
Oh, nice. Boy, this is going to take years to get out. I'm too impatient.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Magical Altars was fun because, I'm a solitary. So, I had a certain idea of what an altar was as being magical. And I had to conclude that really all altars are magical because they're all about transformation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sitting there talking to my ancestor altar this morning. And just, it's like, oh, hi, but you can make magic with it, too. I've got crystals in there and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, before we go, where can people find you on social media? I think the last time you don't have a website, but...
I do hide as best I can.
I know, yeah.
So you could go to my author page on Amazon, and I try to keep that updated under profile and know what's coming up and what I'll have this thing is listed there, this event we're doing. And then you can go to my Facebook, which is facebook.com/V Braschler, and I try to keep an update there of what I'm doing and where I'll be speaking next time Marla deigns to have me on the show. I'll let you know.
Yeah, and I've already got, I think I told you in an email what we want to talk about, but we'll save it for then.
That'll be fun.
It'll be interesting because it's something, just because you're talking about so much of it in the scroll, then it just really spiked my interest. So we'll do that. But anyway, I will be looking forward till the next time. And thank you for coming in. I mean, it was kind of last minute in a sense, but very much appreciated.
Probably not the guest that people expected, but I'm glad I had a chance to talk to your people.
Well, they didn't know who it was anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was you.
It was a really interesting person. He was supposed to be in this hour, but
I got that one.
Thanks for tuning in anyway.
Stop. All right. Thank you guys for listening in also. And until next time, everybody, blessed be and merry meet again. Good night.
This has been another edition of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Be sure to tune in next week at the same time for another great guest and more fun. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2009.
You have been listening to the Para X Radio Network.